On the left, we have the G-Shock GRB 300. And on the right, we have the G-Shock Mudmaster GWG B3000. Oops, knocked over my Yeti. Now we have to assess the Watch Bopper 5000 for damage, and sure enough, looks like the Mudmaster may have dinged up the Watch Bopper 5000 a little bit. But between these two, which one are you more interested in? The GRB 300, which costs $300, or the GWG B. Did I say 3,000 in the intro? I said it incorrectly. Let me try it again. GWG B 1000. Did I ruin this Watch Bopper bopping stand? I don't know. Some of those wallops may have broken it. But anyways, this is the Mudmaster GWG B 1000. All right. Look at those second hands ticking away. They're lined up perfectly. And here's the thing. You can see on the Mudmaster that I synced up the time via multiband 6. All right. When you go to receive, you can see that on the 29th, which is today, at 1:03 a.m., the time on this watch was synced up to the signal from, I think it's from Fort Collins, Colorado, WVVB or whatever it is. Now, there is no multiband 6 on the Gravitymaster, the GRB 300, okay? There's Bluetooth on this one, and so the time was synced up via the Casio Watches app, all right? And they are, like, look at that seconds hand. They're just ticking away together. And so this is an instance where the Bluetooth time and the multiband 6 time was the same. Now, which one is more accurate, multiband 6 or Bluetooth? You know, we have to do a study on that, but that's not the subject of today's video. We're not going to critique Bluetooth versus multiband 6. We're going to talk about the $300 watch versus the $800 watch. Okay, $500 difference between these two watches. Is it justified? Well, you know that with watches, when you look at them online, you can't always tell, right? You look at a picture of the Gravitymaster GRB 300 on gshock.com, and by the way, I'll leave a link below if you want to see it. You may think it's very similar to the Mudmaster GWG B 1000, okay? However, there are differences that you would only know by wearing them. Now, I have both of these, and I have worn them for you. And I can tell you what you are in store when you buy each of these. Now, let me look at this Gravitymaster. And by the way, this Gravitymaster was gifted to me by Tim Johnson of the Real Ideal Gear YouTube channel. And it was in the G-Shock mystery box, all right? And, you know, it retails for $300, so that's quite a gift. So thank you to Tim Johnson. And I did like this one, all right? One surprising thing, though, is that when you look at pictures of it online, and you look at that texture on the band, and you look at the thickness of the band, you'd think that the band was a more supple, like rubbery style plastic, okay? Because, let me just open this coffin and find the dismembered strap of the GPR H1000, which, you know, the lug bolts keep on falling off. But anyways, this is like a real rubbery plastic. And I assumed that, based on the appearance on the website, that the Gravitymaster had the same type of rubbery plastic. It does not. It is a stiffer, harder, not as supple plastic, despite being pretty thick and also having that texture. So I would say that like the kind of like the material of this strap is not it's just not I'm not happy with it, okay? But legibility is fantastic. The Gravitymaster is a watch intended for pilots, for aviation. And so this dial is meant to resemble cockpit instrumentation. And there's 3 different colors. This is the white with red. And so, you know, like a cockpit has, may have red details on the instrument panel. They may also have blue. There's a blue version, right? It's like, and then there's a third one, which is white, no red details. And so that is like the 3 flavors of bubblegum. You have original, you have spearmint, which is this one, you have wintergreen. That's how I think of them as. But anyways, the Gravitymaster does have excellent legibility. Now let's flip over to the Mudmaster and let's talk about how on the GWG B1000 that this band is actually a higher quality band, right? The rubber in it, or the plastic is more rubbery, it's a little more stretchy, and it's softer, more supple. It is more akin to the GPR H1000 band. However, the GPR 1000 band, it does have a lot of stretch to it because, you know, the GPR H1000 is meant to secure this heart rate monitor against your wrist. And so it has to have some flexibility. The flexibility is not there on the Mudmaster band, but the Mudmaster band does feel more durable. Look how dirty my watch is. I've been wearing this to work. It's been getting very dirty, very banged up. Look at all those battle scars, okay? And these battle scars are from work. They're not from the Watch Bopper 5000, that's for sure. But the Watch Bopper 5000 does have plenty of battle scars from the Mudmaster and the Mudman with a metal bezel. All right, now we'll compare these two in an upcoming video, the Mudmaster versus Mudman. But I will point out that the dogs, which is what I call these features right here. Where's my pointer pen? Is my pointer pen out here? You guys know my pointer pen is the Right in the Rain mini bolt action pen. All right. So the dogs, that's what I call these parts of the watch that hold the bezel down. So the bezel of the Mudmaster GWG B1000 is metal, and the dogs that hold it down are metal. The dogs on the Mudman are plastic, okay? So the Mudmaster is indestructible. It seems like with all this metal, right? The metal dogs, the metal bezel, and these side panels, which are ramped, are some type of composite plastic material, but they are lower than the metal, right? See how the highest feature is the crenellated dogs. I call them dogs because that's what you call, you know, when you close up a hatch, like on the end of a tank, like if you haul water or mud or whatever, you know, you have a hatch. Maybe if you were a sailor in the Navy, maybe you had hatches that you closed. I call them dogs. I mean, you guys have to check in and let me know what you call them. But the dogs that we have, you know, have that like that giant wing nut. You know, you cinch them down by hand, right? And these are obviously some type of, you know, hex key that you'd hold these dogs down. But you know, they're holding down the metal bezel. All right. Now there are crenellations on the Gravitymaster. These crenellations, you know, I wouldn't call these dogs. I just call them regular old G-Shock crenellations, right? And so there is a metal bezel, and there is a bowl shape. So, you know, that's a consideration. If you get very dirty, maybe the filth would accumulate in this bowl-shaped bezel. Not the case on the Mudmaster because, you know, there's a very, very tiny bowl, lots of ports for all of the mud and filth to clear out and roll out of, okay? But the crenellations, which are the raised portions of the plastic case of this watch, do protect the screen very well. And, you know, so right off the bat, you know, one thing that I'd have to say between these two is that, you know, for filth resistance and for preventing the accumulation of filth, you know, the Mudmaster is the direction you're going to want to head if you get very dirty, because not only because of the screen being able to get cleared out, but also because these are mud resistant buttons, right? It's mud resist. That's why we call it the Mudmaster, okay? The Gravitymaster has gravity resist. right? Or shock resist. All G-Shock watches do. But anyways, the Gravitymaster, like I said, this is like a pilot's watch. So it's like if you're off flying out off in the sky, you know, in an airplane, or maybe one of those like parachutes with the giant fans, or maybe you have a drone big enough it can lift you off the ground. This Gravitymaster allows you to store waypoints. Like there's some type of button you press that, you know, I don't really understand all the details of it, but when you sync it up with your phone, like if you left from Dallas and were flying to Nashville, you know, you could press a button during liftoff and then press a button when you land, and it would tell you, you know, information about your trip through the Watches app. Now, since I have not flown, I have not tested that, but I guess I should when I'm driving my Peterbilt around. Actually, it's a Western Star now, but I'm driving the tractor trailer around the oil field. Maybe I could like mimic that. I mean, would the watch really know if I'm flying or driving? I don't know. But the reason why these two are being compared is because they are both analog watches of G-Shock. And they are both higher level G-Shock analog watches, right? This is from the Master of G series. This isn't like, you know, your entry level analog watch of G-Shock. Notice how there is no seconds hand on the GA2100. Okay, so the seconds tick away on the LCD subdial. Notice how there is a robust seconds hand on the Mudmaster. There is also a seconds hand on the Gravitymaster. Now, why do we have to pay more for a seconds hand? Well, the thing is, you know, it's an extra complication, but also G-Shock, since they have that, you know, shock resistant, they're shock resistant, right? Seconds hands, when you think about it, they get knocked around a lot because they have to be balanced really well. And so on a standard issue G-Shock, like the Casio, the GA2100, they don't even bother with a seconds hand, because that way they don't need to worry about the physics of that seconds hand in a shock event, like say the Watch Bopper 5000 crashing down on you. You don't have to worry about that seconds hand being knocked off kilter. Now, that is a consideration on these watches. The Gravitymaster, this morning when I pulled the Gravitymaster out of the coffin, which is what you viewers have named my G-Shock toolbox, it's metal. You guys call it the coffin because that is where watches go to die. And you can see that this GAB 2100 is barely holding on to life. It's wanting to charge. Maybe the studio lights will charge it up some. But a lot of watches die inside of here. Is the Rangeman dead? Nope. The Rangeman, the battery level is on medium, where it always is. It seems like it's always on medium. Right? So all these solar powered watches, they need the light. By the way, Citizen has, you know, is bringing the war to Casio G-Shock with the ProMaster Land U822, as well as some other watches with the Eco Drive. And there's one new Eco Drive watch that advertises that it can last a whole year on one charge through solar charging. Eco Drive is all about solar charging. This is the U822. I think that the new one is called the U820. All right, so stay tuned. We might take a look at that one. But anyways, dead watches. Well, you guys know the King is probably dead. Oh, surprise, the King is still alive. That's amazing. All right, well, anyways, you guys remember the video where I revived the King. This is dead. Oh, no, it's alive too. Guys, a lot of these watches are living longer than I expected. But anyways, I'm getting so sidetracked. What is the point? The point is that I took the Gravitymaster out of the G-Shock toolbox and I synced it up to my phone to get the time synced up. But then when I held these together to see if the seconds hands were ticking away at the same time, they were not. And the minute hand was not even ticking away at the correct time. And so I found out that the seconds hand, the minute hand, and the dial, they call this the disc. The disc were misaligned. Okay. Now, so I had to realign the hands in the app. And so The Gravitymaster was misaligned just by taking a ride in the G-Shock toolbox, being stowed in there for so long. And so it required some alignment, all right? Now, all my G-Shock watches that are analog have, at certain points, needed to be aligned, including the GAB 2100, because I chucked it in the washer and dryer in order to wash it, you know? It got very dirty. Somehow it got grease all over it. Really crazy how I got so much grease on this one while I was, greasing my truck. You guys remember that video where some of you thought that I was bleeding because it was that red grease. No, it was just grease, just fresh grease that somehow accidentally got all over this band, which didn't last too long. But anyways, yes, this one took a ride in the washer and dryer. And if I throw this in the washer and dryer, I would be afraid that the Mudmaster with its metal dogs would ding up the ceramic lining of the washer and possibly ruin some of the features of the dryer. So, Philip Lahell was telling me to chuck this one in the washer and dryer. I'm worried about my washer and dryer. Maybe I'll try it at the Man Camp washer and dryer. Anyways, I had to realign these hands. They were way off. So these hands do get knocked loose. And what happens is that the internal time of the watch is correct, but the hands are displaying the wrong time. Now, it's not such a huge deal if you have any on the Mudmaster, because if you have any question about whether the internal time is correct, let me see if I can move the hands out of the way. You guys know that. Oh, there we go. I moved them out of the way. So if you wanted to know the the internal time is on the Mudmaster, then you can press this display button to cycle through what the LCD subdial is displaying, like day of the week, date, barometric pressure, date, or the time. So it's 2:33 p.m., right? And you can, see that the analog hands are displaying 2:33 p.m. So this is spot on. Look at when the seconds hand's about to hit that 30 mark. Boom, spot on, right? And so the Gravitymaster does not have an LCD subdial. The Gravitymaster is all analog, okay? So you cannot use the LCD subdial to see the internal time of the clock. If you have any question about whether the time is set correctly via the app, then you'd actually have to compare it to the time displayed on your phone. So this Gravitymaster is a watch that is following that paradigm that it's kind of like a breakaway tool used in conjunction with your phone. Okay. Now, when I took the Mudmaster out hiking at Carlsbad Caverns, a lot of people are asking, what's the point with all of these trackback features and altitude features, etc., if you have to use it with your phone? Well, the thing is, I didn't have to take my phone out, right? So after I get all of the, not the navigational features, but I forget what they call it. What do they call it? You guys watch that video. But there's features related to the GPS on the Mudmaster, and it gets the GPS coordinates from the phone app. All right, so this is like a breakaway device from the phone, but you can stow your phone in your backpack. All right, and I guess if you're a pilot, you could stow the phone, I don't know, in your leather briefcase. I just imagine all pilots have a leather briefcase they carry everywhere. So you could stow the phone in there and have to take it out. When you're taking off, press a button. When you're flying, it'll record your GPS information. When you land, you press a button again, and then when you look at the app, it tells you, your elapsed time. So that's the whole premise of the Gravitymaster, right? So again, it's part of the paradigm of G-Shock watches where there's an interaction between the watch and your smartphone, all right? And that, as you can imagine, leads to a lot of problems. Some people just do not like that, right? I obviously do not like that, or I do not favor that. I mean, I test all of this stuff, the Bluetooth, just to make YouTube videos for those of you who are interested in it. But a lot of viewers, you just want a basic watch that you take out of the box, set the time, and put on your wrist. And I'm happy that G-Shock is still making watches like those, but both the Gravitymaster and the Mudmaster are watches that, in theory, you can use without Bluetooth, right? You can set the time on the Gravitymaster. You can set the time on the Mudmaster. In fact, the Mudmaster will take in the multiband 6. But there are a bunch of features on the watch where you'd need to use the app, okay? Like on the Gravitymaster, and the app makes it a lot easier to set. Like you can turn on, I think, like 1 AM alarm and 1 PM alarm on the Gravitymaster, and you can do it through the app, or if you didn't want to use the app, you'd have to use this crown. And it's not so intuitive exactly how that works. Like, I don't even want to pretend I know how it's done right now in this video. I know I've done it in a previous video, so maybe you guys could check in on another video where I do a deeper dive on all the functionality of the Gravitymaster. But, the Mudmaster with the LCD subdial, it's easier to set all of the different features through the actual watch itself. Okay. Oh, look, someone's come over here. I'm in the garage. I have the garage door open, and I'm sweating like crazy. That's what all this water is that you see dripping everywhere. That's sweat. It's not just the water that's spilled when the Watch Bopper 5000 knocked over my Yeti. So this fly is probably attracted to all the sweat and odor. But anyways, $300 versus $800. Is it worth it? And the answer is yes. There is a huge difference, $500 difference between these two. Everything about the Mudmaster says premium, right? All the metal, all of the details just seem premium. And the Gravitymaster retails at $300, so you can get it for less. And it just doesn't feel like a premium watch, all right? It feels like a good watch, and the legibility is good. You'd probably get a lot of comments for this, wearing this, because it looks like a good watch. So if you're on a budget, obviously, the Gravitymaster would be a good choice. But if you're asking, do I really need to spend that much money to get the Mudmaster? Well, the thing is that for many guys, this watch is the exit watch. That this is like they've achieved the highest level of watch that they can aspire to, right? There's no reason to spend any more on a watch. This is like the one and done. That's what a lot of guys have in mind when they get this Mudmaster. Now, for you, maybe you're scoffing at this idea that that $500 is a lot of money. It's not worth it. Well, that's a different thing. Okay, $500 is a lot of money. If you don't have it, then obviously don't spend it. But is the Mudmaster a better watch? And the answer is yes. I mean, look, there's more features. You get the sensor here for the altimeter, barometer, and compass, right? So there's additional sensors in here and additional features. So we have, like I said, we have world time. Let me just start from the beginning. Let me just give you like a really quick feature, like tell you about the features. You got, main time, the barometer, okay, temperature, and then you can store, this is how you store your altitude when you're hiking. That's what received is. The sunrise, sunset, that's a pretty important feature to me. I like that one. Stopwatch down to 100ths of a second. Timer. Forget how long did we say the timer goes? Is it a 24-hour timer? I can't remember. The Gravitymaster does have a 24-hour timer. You have alarms, so you have more alarms, right? You get a whole bunch of alarms. How do you scroll through them? 5 alarms plus hourly time signal. Then you have a second time zone, world time. And then the multiband 6. We're back to the main time, right? Now there's some additional features. There's like a track back function in the compass where if you save a waypoint, then the subdial will point back to your original point. And then if you go on a hike, like I did on a previous video, you can have this watch track your trek, and you can see the map of your trek on the app, right? So the functionality of the Gravitymaster is more limited. We do not have that ABC sensor, all right? But we do have a stopwatch type of thing. Let me see if I remember how to get to all those different functions. What's the mode? All right, so yeah, this button is not for mode. This button is for connect. I have to flip it over to see. You long press this to get your Bluetooth to sync up to the app, right? And then you have a light. Okay, so the mode is the top left, right? So there we go, stopwatch. So the stopwatch is all analog, so you can see the subdial is changing from the second time zone, which it normally displays in the main time screen, to the stopwatch. And the start-stop button is, what button is the start-stop button? Maybe it says on the front. There we go, top right. So that's how you use a stopwatch. All right. So, it's an analog stopwatch. And before I made this video, I probably should have reminded myself exactly how it tracks time. I think that the seconds hand is for seconds, and then the second time zone hands are for the rest of the time. But it's a analog stopwatch that. So, and then we have a timer, and you set the timer. You have to use the crown, right? Trying to remember. You can use the app. You might have to use the app. I know that you can use the app. I think, I don't remember what it's set for, but you use the app, right? You might be able to set it with a crown. I'm not sure. Someone will tell me in the comments. And then you have an alarm. Like I said, there's not 5 alarms. There is an alarm. I think there's one for AM and one for PM, I believe. I mean, for accurate details about the Gravitymaster, you should probably watch my video about the Gravitymaster. I don't actually remember all the details now that I'm sitting here with the video recording. And boy, am I embarrassed. But that's kind of par for the course on my channel, isn't it? And we're back to the main time. So you can see there's not a whole ton of features. And so I believe that this module is the same as the GST B100 or maybe the B400. They took a module out of the GST series, one of them, and slapped it in this plastic resin case. And so I'm not discouraging anybody from buying this. I'm not saying it's a terrible watch at all. I'm just saying that if you're asking why the Mudmaster is $500 more, I'm telling you why, okay? Like when I first popped this watch out, the Mudmaster, when I first popped the Mudmaster out of the box, the first thought was, wow, this is premium. Okay, it doesn't really come across in the pictures that you'd see on the G-Shock website, because it was just pictures that, it's like, oh boy, an analog watch that, is, you know what, guys, did the seconds hand already get knocked loose on the Gravitymaster? That would be funny if the gravity that I subjected the Gravitymaster to has already misaligned the seconds hand, but isn't that what appears to have happened? Right? Because we're on the main time of the Gravitymaster, and already that seconds hand is way off. Look at that. Let me see if I can get it knocked up again, that it would be off the right direction. Okay, how far off are we now? It's like almost 10 seconds, right? We're testing gravity. I think that the Mudmaster is better at gravity than the Gravitymaster. All right, how far off are the seconds hands now? About the same, right? Now, it may have been gravity. It may have also been taking that crown out. Taking the crown out may have stopped the time. I don't know. I can't tell, guys. I don't want to sit here and tell you, oh yeah, I misaligned the hands with a Watch Bopper 5000 and smashing into it, but those seconds hands are not lined up now. The minute and hour hands are, right? Oh, there you go, guys. It deserves further study, but it probably happened with unscrewing the crown. Anyways, what was I saying? Yes, the Mudmaster premium watch. So look at this metal. It's chiseled, right? That's chiseled metal. It reminds me of a chisel. See that? That's beautiful. Button shrouds, metal. Bezel, metal. Dogs, metal. These screws for the dogs, metal. Right? In the front button shroud, metal. Now the buttons themselves are plastic of the Mudmaster, but it's a premium watch, all right? And the legibility, like I said, the legibility of the Gravitymaster is very good. But the Mudmaster has these big, beefy hands. And on mine, it has this faux patina with a white outline. Now, there are different colors of the Mudmaster. If you wanted like all white indices and hands, I believe the green one is like that. And I think the green one has a yellow seconds hand too. Oh, and the seconds hand, that little square and pin at the end is loomed, okay? So it's too bright in here to compare the loom. Maybe I will in another video. But the loom of the Mudmaster is probably the best loom that I've seen on a Casio watch. And you have when you press the light button, you have the LED that will illuminate the dial and the LED on the LCD subdial. The Gravitymaster, there's some pretty good loom, or no, not loom, is the illumination. The loom better than other G-Shock watches, but not as good as the Mudmaster. All right. So here's an interesting thing that has to do with size. All right. The dial of the Gravitymaster is bigger. Just barely, but the Mudmaster, which has a reputation of being very big, when it comes to the GWG B1000, is actually more diminutive, right? Some of you guys call the GWG 1000 the war machine, right? I believe that Termit calls it that. He calls it the war machine. And he's a fan of the GWG 1000. That is a big, beefy watch. I do not have the GWG 1000, but it's sized bigger than the GWG B1000. That's for dadgum sure. And the GWG 2000, which you cannot buy from G-Shock anymore, that one is bigger than the GWG B1000. So they toned down the size of the GWG B1000. I tested it doing some maintenance on my tractor trailer truck, and I was happy to report that it didn't get in the way too much. Right? It's not as svelte as the Mudman, but it wasn't as like big as the King. So sizing on this one, if you have a smaller wrist, if you're a small wrister, you may be able to pull this one off, right? Now the Gravitymaster is actually bigger. Not by a lot, but it's still a pretty big watch. So it has some pretty good size. I think it's big, but not too big, right? For me, at least. And the band, I think that the band might even be a little bit longer on the Gravitymaster. But anyways, the point is that to make the Mudmaster more appealing, they've sized it decently for a small wrister or an average sized wrister. I wear the Mudmaster on either notch number 1 or 2, depending on how hot it is, what I'm doing, So that's a comparison between these two, okay? Now, there's even more I could say about these, but we'll save that for another video. Gentlemen, remember, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through him. I'm Jim Kincaid. Thanks for watching.